welcome. My name is Lexi Jong, and here I like to talk about luxury makeup. Today we are going to be talking about the new Tom Ford blushes. So these are currently available at Tom Ford boutiques. They are not yet online, but they will be online and at retailers in September. And I picked up two of the shades. So these retail for $90 US. And when they come, you have a little, that was the wrong one. You have a little plastic piece that fits over the top, and you see you do have a mirror here. There is no included brush, which for me I think is a great thing. And this one here is the shade number 5 Sundrunk. So these are made in Italy. They're 0.22 ounces or 6.5 grams, and these are the Shade and Illuminate blush. So each one has 2 shades in there. I wouldn't say it's something like a blush and a highlight or a blush and a contour. There are certain duos that perhaps look like they may be more suited to those particular purposes. But for me, I'm looking at these primarily as 2 different blush shades in each one. And you can see here, this is the Chikuhodo KZ4. You can see how well you can get a brush into each half, or you can combine them. So I do have a couple of demos showing you the 2 that I picked up, done all of those ways. And this is the other one that I have. This one is number 4, Cherry Blaze. And I have to say, I think it's not really cherry to me. It's definitely peachier. One of the things that I think is really great about these duos is that, at least with the 2 that I picked up, one shade is cooler, one shade is warmer. So depending on your undertones, you can mix and match how you please to kind of get the look that you want. Now, even though these shades look very different in the pan, and they do look different on the face as well, there's a similarity between them that, you know, just kind of makes them go together. So let's go ahead and take a look at some swatches of these. And then we will look at the clips and we'll come back with some comparisons and my thoughts on the formula. So starting off with number 4, Cherry Blaze. So these are the 2 separate, and then the third one is going to be the shades mixed together. So lightest, brightest, and mixed. So this is Cherry Blaze. So you can see that although the deeper shade here is a little bit redder, a little more cherry-like, it's still, it's warmer and more peachy than a traditional cherry would be. This first shade here is really much more of a peach, and this one is really much more of a coral, leaning red. So yeah, I think when you mix the 2 together and you get this shade, it's a really nice neutral shade with a touch of like a pinky rose in there. Now for number 5, Sundrunk, we're going to do the same thing here. And these shades, so this is number 5, lightest, brightest, mixed. Okay, so you can see that they're actually not super different from each other. This one here is going to be a little bit more nude. This lightest shade here, again, it's going to be a little bit peachy, but it's more of a peachy brown. There's a little bit of brown in here, so it's more of a peachy nude. And then the darker shade here is more of a dusty rose. So again, it's got a little bit more brown in it than the Cherry Blaze. It's very much like this with some brown mixed in it, because you can see that there's like a hint of that like reddish shade in there. Let me just, can you see that blended out? It's hard to blend these ones out without making them too light, but here we go with them mixed. Again, it's going to be more of a reddish brown shade. So let's go ahead and look at the demos of these blushes on my face, and then we're going to come back, we're going to do some comparison swatches, and we'll talk a little bit about the formula and my thoughts. I want to try out the blushes, and I'm trying to decide which one to try today, because the 2 that I picked up, I think they're gorgeous. So this one here is 5 Sundrunk, which I think is probably my favorite just from looking at it. I have to say, I'm glad they don't have space for the blush brush. And then this one here is Cherry Blaze, which actually looks much more peachy. I think let's try this one today. So I'm gonna take the Chikuhodo KZ4. We're gonna go into this brighter shade first and just tapping off any excess. And let's put that one on this side. So that's just a very light layer. Let's get a little bit more of that. All right, so here is the deeper shade in Cherry Blaze. And let me wipe off the brush. We're gonna go into this lighter, more peachy shade on the other side. Wow, you can see that gives a really nice, light, soft flush. So pinker, warmer. I think both of them are really pretty. And I'm just gonna go ahead and mix these together. So I'm gonna add a little bit of the deeper one now to my left side and a little bit of the lighter one to the right side. So this is kind of what you'll get if you mix the two shades together. Honestly, that's probably what I'll do most of the time, but I do have to say that the division in these pans, each side is big enough that you can definitely easily isolate the shades. So this would actually be really good to travel with because you get two blush colors very easily, distinctly separate, or you can mix them together. So it's kind of like bringing three blushes with you. You know, other blush palettes, sometimes they're just too small to do anything other than kind of mix them, or you've got that like more of an ombre gradient, so it's not necessarily going to be consistent every time. So this makes it really easy to get distinct shades from it. So this is the final look from a distance. So on the cheeks, I have the Tom Ford Blush Duo in 04, Cherry Blaze. And then the eyes is the Givenchy Holiday Palette 907. And on the lips, I have a very light coating. Like this is a light coating. I just kind of dabbed it on the lips. This is 501 Copper Nude from the Givenchy Holiday Collection. So you can see it's in the special limited edition packaging. And this is one of the Le Rouge lipsticks. You can see it's got some gold sparkle in there. And this is it. So let me know what you guys think. Thanks. So today we're going to be using the Sundrunk blush. This is number 5. And I'm going to use the same type of brush I used with the other one. This is the KZ04 from Chikuhodo. And we're going to go ahead, we're going to start off in this deeper shade here. And just going to kind of go into this, tap off any excess. And I have the same base on as yesterday. So it's the Chanel Ultra Le Teint in BD01. And then it's very, very lightly set with the Givenchy Prisma Libra in number 1 Mousseline Pastel. Just gonna get a little bit more product, but you can see that honestly that's like enough for me on a regular day. But just to show you how the product builds. And this is a fluffy brush. So if you want more color, you want to go with something a little bit denser, maybe something not quite so, you can see how much fluffiness there is to this. It's a little bit airier. So if you go with something a little bit denser, a little more tightly packed, you'll get a lot more pigment. So this is the deepest shade. Now on this side, let's go into the lighter shade. And again, the lighter shade in this case, just like the other one, is more of a peachy shade. The deeper shade here is actually more of a dusty rose. So you've kind of got a little bit of a mix of colors here, which You know, they're gonna look nicely paired and they're gonna look nicely separate. And you can see that again, we've got a situation where this side here, the rosier side, is slightly cooler in tone. The peachier side is a little bit warmer in tone. So that really does kind of accommodate different undertones. And then of course we can mix them. So first, let me just show you both sides again. Deeper rosier shade here, lighter peachier shade here. And now I'm just gonna add a little bit of the opposite shade to each cheek. So this is the rosier one going on now. Just to kind of mix those. And then this is the lighter shade going on now. So this is what the combination will look like. And again, I know this is way too much blush for me for a normal day. So I'm gonna buff some of this out. I'll see you in a second. All right, so here are the blushes from a distance. I buffed it a little bit using the Ray Morris, I don't remember what this one's called. It's a 21 brush. And it's a little bit denser than the Sonia G Smooth Buffer. Like the center doesn't flex quite as much. So it's slightly denser, a little bit firmer. And then I put on a little bit more of the Prisma Libra powder on top of this to just kind of diffuse it a little bit more. And I really like the color. I think it's a really nice shade. And this is it. All right, so we're gonna start off with the Givenchy Prisma Libra loose powders for comparisons. This one here is number 3 Coral, Voile Coral. And we're just gonna get a little bit, I'm mixing these shades together. We are not going to separate these out. So this is Voile Coral. I can get a better swatch, hang on. All right, there we go. At first I was just using the residual powder that was left in the cap, but I decanted a little. So you can see that this is gonna be a little bit more orangey than any of these shades. Next we have number 6, Flanelle Ruby. And this one's gonna be brighter and deeper, but you can see this one's also gonna be a little bit more red than any of these. It's gonna be closest to this shade here in the, what was that one? The Cherry Blaze. And this one here is number 4, Organza Sienna. And this one is probably gonna be the closest of these 3. Okay, and I think this one is gonna be closest to Sundrunk. It's kind of an in-between shade of these. All right, this is the Sisley Lafido blush in number 3, Coral. It's not really gonna go with any of these. I'm gonna put this one right up here at the top so you can see the difference. The closest is Cherry Blaze. You can see it's gonna be, this one's a little bit more of a true coral than this. All right, next we're gonna look at a few of the Chantecaille Philanthropy cheek shades. This is the one with the elephant. It's called Smitten. And let's put this one down here. Okay, and you can see that it's gonna be a little bit peachier. The closest is actually going to be a mix with Cherry Blaze, but using more of the lighter shade and just a touch of this one. Next we have Grace, the Sea Turtle shade. And this one, let's try swatching that again. It's a really light shade. This one builds up, but it is very, very light. Okay, so here we go. You can see that the closest is probably gonna be this shade here, but it's gonna be a little bit lighter and softer. And again, this is the mix for Sundrunk. Next we have Laughter, which is the coral shade. This one's gonna be a little bit pinker than any of these, but I wanted to show you how the pinkish tones kind of differ, because even though you've got some cooler pink tones in here, it's still not gonna be as cool as something else. It's closer to neutral. You can see that this is more of a rosier, pinker coral. And next up we have Emotion, or the B shade. And this one's peachier. So you can see though that the peachy shade, The closest is going to be something here in Sundrunk, but it doesn't quite match. These are all browner, and this is like a pinkier peach. Next, we're gonna look at some Hermes blushes. This is 45 Rose Ombre. And let's go ahead, we're gonna put this one right here. Well, we'll put it with Sundrunk. Okay, and that's gonna be closest to the darker shade in Sundrunk. You can see that those are actually very, very close. The Hermes is a little bit pinker. Next, we have number 19, Rose Apricot. And let's put that one right up here. And this one is, you know, it's going to be closest to the one in Cherry Blaze, but it's still it's close enough to either of these lighter shades. Again, this one's going to be more brown. This is more peach. It's got a touch of brown in it too. So it's a little bit browner in this, but not quite as much as the one in Sundrunk. And then this one here is 23 Rose Blush. Let's put that one right there. And you can see this one is a little bit more of a corally orangey shade. So it's coral that leans more orange, whereas this is gonna lean more red. It doesn't quite go with any of these, but you can see, you know, how they compare. And next we're gonna look at a few Chanel blushes. So this is the Fleur de Printemps. Let's do these separately and together. So I'm gonna put these, well, let's see where we can squeeze these. Go here. First of all, you can see that these are, the one shade is more metallic, so the mix is gonna be metallic. The shade, the darker shade, this one here, that one is going to be closest to, you know, it's really not that close to any of these. I would say it's a little bit too different. It's more of a mix of this deeper one and this deeper one from both Cherry Blaze and Sundrunk. And this one here is 71 Malice. This one is going to be a little bit too, a little different here. So here it is. You can see it's got a lot more pink in it than any of these. And this is 02 Rose Bronze, and we're gonna stick this right in between the two here. So you can see that the shade of it is definitely rosier than the more browner shades here in Sundrunk. You know, maybe you could come close if you mix more of this and just a touch of this, but honestly, I feel like it's a little bit too different. The tones aren't quite right. All right, and we're gonna finish up with some Pat McGrath shades. Now, most of the Pat McGraths are gonna be like too pink. This one is obviously gonna be way deeper. This one here is Paradise Venus, but I just kind of wanted to show you the tones of this so you can compare the tones. Tone-wise, it's gonna be closest to the Sundrunk. You can see that this is gonna have a lot more red, a lot more brown, but got that messed up there. Okay, but it's kind of like a mix of the deepest one with a touch of the brown one, but on steroids. This one here is Nude Venus, and let's put that one here. Okay, and if we're looking at this one, again, this one is going to be closest to Sundrunk. It's going to be closest to the deepest shade in Sundrunk. And then this one here is Flirtatious, the lightest one of the Pat McGrath shades. And let's see here, can we put that maybe right here? It's a little bit pinker than any of these. I was hoping that might go with the lighter shades, but they're just a little bit too peach and too brown for that. So yeah, that one's different. So this is one of the original Tom Ford blushes. This one is in number 1, Frantic Pink. Just want to show you that there. The colors don't go with any of these, but I just wanted to show you how the formula swatches, because you can see that these here, although you have pigmented color, the way it actually swatches is a little different. So this older one, at least the older one that I have, again, this is the only one I have, so I don't have a ton to compare them to, but this one is going to be more powdery, whereas this is a little bit more of pigment that stretches on your skin, if that makes sense. So you're using less product to get the color. Now, they look very light. Swatching them is very light. It is very difficult to swatch blushes because they never come out exactly the way they're going to look on your face. But I personally find that this one here, this shade, Frantic Pink, you know, it is like the lightest shade in the old range. You know, it's a very nice product. It goes on well. It's not going to be super like buildable with pigmentation or anything like that. Whereas these newer Tom Ford ones, I do find them to be a little bit more buildable than the shade that I currently have in the old formula. So what I mean is when you put on the first layer, you can build it by putting on more and more layers. That being said, you know, it's still not going to be as vibrant or pigmented as something like a Pat McGrath blush. Regardless of what brush you use, you're still going to be able to build up that pigmentation. You're going to get that color. But for people with deeper skin tones, if you're looking for like really bright, vibrant blush, it's probably not going to be with this formula. However, if you're looking for more of a natural flush, you can use these colors to build up to that level. And it's not that hard. It's not that hard to build up the pigmentation level, in my opinion. So overall, as to which formula I prefer, the old versus the new one, you know, that's really hard for me to say because I only bought this one, the Frantic Pink, and I didn't love it, which is why it's my only Tom Ford in the original blush formula. I felt like, you know, it wasn't really worth the money. So it was not a favorite, but I know that some of the other shades are favorites for people, and perhaps I should have tried some of those. But these new ones, I do actually really like them. I find them to blend out very nicely, and they really stay put. You know, it's not a powdery blush. You don't get a lot of kick up or anything like that. And when you put it on, it's kind of where it goes. So what that kind of means for me, being fair skin complexion, you know, if I put on too much at first, it is a little bit harder to remove that because it's kind of like the pigment that gets spread onto your face, and that pigment is kind of there to stay. So it's a little bit harder to diffuse. Really moving around with a brush is not going to kind of diffuse the blush very much. So if you really put on too much, you need to diffuse that with some powder. So unfortunately, you know, that's kind of how it is. So it is, in my opinion, very buildable. And yeah, I have to say that the blush lasts all day. I have been testing these for a couple of days now, and they last all day without any fading at all. Again, as I mentioned, it's really more of a pigment than a traditional blush formula. So it sticks around really well. Now, are they worth $90? It's a completely personal situation there. That's your own decision. But I do think it's a nice product. I wasn't sure that I was gonna like having the dual, but I have to say, because of the size, for each half being big enough for a blush brush to fit in without, you know, touching the other side, I'm actually very happy with it because it's essentially like getting 3 blush shades here. So I actually really like them, and I'm happy with the 2 I picked up. I do want to see the other shades in person. I did order these over the phone, so you know, I haven't seen them in person per se, but I think that I think all of the colors are workable and wearable. It's really more just what you gravitate towards. And these were the 2 that I picked up because I thought they'd be most flattering on me. And I have to say that I feel like in the pan, they look slightly different than they do on the skin. You know, you can see here that not only are they softer, but they also seem to be a bit more neutral. You know, this definitely looks, you know, a little bit more exaggerated than it does on the skin. And yeah, that's kind of where I am with these blushes. So I think they're a really great formula. I wouldn't go as far as saying they are my favorite formula ever. but I think they're a very nice formula. I don't have any issues with the reformulation of these blushes. And yeah, I'd love to know what you guys think if you're interested in these, if you are planning on picking these up. Now, I did also pick up the new Tom Ford concealer as well. I'm still testing that right now, but I will have a video on after I have worn that a bit longer. I'm just playing with different application methods and everything still, and doing some wear tests and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you know when that video pops up, but it'll probably be in the next week or so. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions that I didn't address here, please be sure to leave those down below in the comments or DM me on Instagram at AlexisJong. And if you have any other swatch comparison requests, please let me know and I'd be happy to add them to an update video. And that's it for today. So thank you so much for tuning in. If it was helpful, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. That really helps a lot. And I will see you very soon. So have a great day and stay safe and healthy.